Welcome to the HR Chat Show, one of the world's most downloaded and shared podcasts designed for HR pros, talent execs, tech enthusiasts, and business leaders. For hundreds more episodes and what's new in the world of work, subscribe to the show, follow us on social media, and visit hrgazette.com.
Welcome to another episode of the HR Chat Show. Hello, listeners. This is your host today, Bill Banham. And in this episode, we're going to look at building a first-rate payroll product. My guest today is Sriram Ganesan, Senior Director of Engineering over at Rippling, a company on a mission to help customers increase savings, automate busy work, and make better decisions by managing payroll, HR, IT, and spending all in one place. Sriram, how are you today? Nice to get you on the show. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Bill. I'm very happy to be here and to represent Rippling. So, how are you doing today?
So, beyond my reintroduction there, why don't you start by taking a couple of minutes and telling our listeners all about yourself and what you get up to?
Yeah, sure. So, I'm Sriram. I work on the engineering team at Rippling. Rippling is a payroll and a insurance and a HRIS company. I've been an engineer at Rippling for almost 7 years now. I worked in various capacities. I joined as a low-level engineer working on the insurance team, primarily helping small businesses get insurance for their companies in a less confusing and manage that in an easier way. And after that, during the COVID era, especially, we wanted to serve, a lot of companies were hiring globally, so we wanted to help customers do that more effectively. So we started a team called Global Payroll Team that I ended up leading, where we, regardless of where your employees are, we just help you do payroll for them. So yeah, that's about me.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to challenge you now. Okay, I like to do this sometimes on this show. Give me the mission of Rippling, but do it in under 60 seconds. Go.
I'll do it even shorter. It's to free smart people to work on the important things. I guess to explain it a little bit more, people in HR, payroll, HRIS insurance, they usually end up having to do a lot of crappy work, filling forms, and just doing a lot of busy work. And our mission is to basically automate a lot of the busy work and let the smart people working in HR be a lot more efficient with the day to day.
Can you now share a bit about Rippling's approach to R&D?
Yeah, I think Rippling's approach to R&D is very much around automating the busy work, right? And providing a good experience both to the employer and for the employee. And a little bit of background of how Rippling got started was because our CEO, Parker Conrad, had a company, had a bunch of companies before. He's I think he's had 3 or 4 companies now. And he just found the experience of managing employees, doing payroll and doing insurance really hard and confusing for a new person to the system, and wanted to build something and then saw an opportunity to build something which is simple and easy to use and doesn't make you go through maze like software to build it. So what we try to do is build a really simple and an intuitive user experience and automating as much of the things as possible that that a normal HR person wouldn't have to do. So for example, especially in the US, you have to fill in a bunch of insurance form on the paper, and you have to fax it to an insurance carrier. And this form used to be given by the HR admin to the employee, ask them to fill it up, guide them through the process of hey, what is a PPO, what is an HMO, and things like that. And now they have to figure out where a fax machine is and then send it over. So now what Rippling does is just provides a simple form, a web form for the employee to fill it through and provide some guidance on hey, what's an HMO, what's a PPO, stuff and and automatically sends the form and faxes it to the insurance company. This is the kind of stuff that Rippling does. So yeah.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the HR Chat Podcast. If you enjoy the audio content we produce, you'll love our articles on the HR Gazette. Learn more at hrgazette.com. And now, back to the show.
Companies have lots of challenges as they expand globally, of course, Sriram. How does Rippling help ease this burden? How do you guys make it easier?
Yeah, I think like we reflect on our own journey a lot and see like what we wish we had when we started expanding, and like we try to build that. So Rippling is also a global company. Like since early days, we've had offices in India, Canada, and like recently we've had offices in like UK and like China, and there's a bunch of places, right? And there are a lot of like each country has its own like unique challenges on like how you start. So in some companies, like opening a bank account is like a huge ordeal. Like you don't even know where to start. In some countries, it's like banking, opening a bank account is easy, but like registering yourself with like the government agencies is really hard, or you might like misclassify yourself, right? So what Rippling tries to do is like we try to like um, provide two different options for employees who are trying to like expand globally. First option is now called EOR, and like employment of record, or like some people call it a global PEO, where essentially you don't have to do any of the things in the local. You don't need to hire a person in the local area. What Rippling does is like kind of hires the employee for you, and you just pay Rippling a little bit of money to manage the legal costs and things like that. But like, so you don't need to open a bank account. You don't need to do anything. I'm assuming you're a company in the US, or like we do it in like a bunch of countries. But like, let's say you're a company based out of like UK. We basically like withdraw some, like you want to pay your employee in India. If you hire them through REOR, we just like withdraw the money from your bank account in UK, and then do the currency conversions in the most optimal manner, and then send it to the employee in India, right? And also provide them the benefits and all of those things like that we do for our own employees in India. We provide them. That's one way. But if you're like a much more established company who you have your own entity and you have your own bank account, you have people taking care of those things, we provide you a world-class software experience, like a best-in-class like payroll software, HR software, insurance benefit software, pension software, and all of those things to basically manage the entire site yourself. The biggest thing Rippling does in those cases is like it provides a really good user experience and like centralizes all in a single system. Right? Previously, like even in our company, what used to happen is like we had different payroll systems in like Canada and in like US, and the Canadian person had to request a PTO in their Canadian HR software, and our HR person used to take a screenshot of like that PTO request and send it to the manager, and the manager will say like, yeah, approved, and then the like HR person would go and like approve that. Like, so things like that, like we try to like avoid just by centralizing it all in a single system. So the Canadian person now just request a PTO to their manager, and like since both of them in the same system, we can just do all of that pretty easily.
So your team has described Rippling as a compound startup. Can you share what that means and where Rippling is heading in the next sort of year or two? What are the plans for you guys? Tell us more.
Yeah, for sure. I guess compound startup is like a very interesting concept that like our CEO Parker Conrad came up with. Um, it's we call it a common startup because it's explicitly against the conventional wisdom in like Silicon Valley on like how to build software. In Silicon Valley, the general conventional advice on how to build software is you pick one limited area and like you specialize on it like crazy, right? So you basically, let's say you build a ATS system, you just build a really good ATS system and like you sell the ATS system and you focus it like very strongly on that. It's generally called a lean software model, right? But that doesn't work all in every case. There are a bunch of places where that provides a bad experience. And the main place where it provides a bad experience is like when you want your softwares to talk to each other. Well, for example, an ATS system, once you finished hiring a candidate, you want that details of the employee to go into your HRIS system. Usually, in these point-based systems, what you have to do is like some poor HR person's job to copy the data, like manually type it over, like and manual data entry into your HR system and send an offer letter. And this is busy work, and this is Ripling's mission to eliminate it, right? Like so, free smart people to work on the hard problems. So what Ripling's ethos here is like to provide these magical experience of like an ATS system automatically pushing data to HRIS. What it's not enough to build like just like these one software spoke. You need to build all of these systems so that you can make sure they all talk to each other well, right? So if you're if you're more familiar with like a mobile model, it's like the Android version versus the Apple version. Like Apple is like much more seamless. Everything works together well. Like if you use a Mac laptop and if you use like a iPhone, you can like read your messages in each of those places and things. Like those are magical experiences that you can provide only if you own the entire ecosystem. And Rippling tries to own that entire ecosystem to provide those magical experiences. And we try to build everything. We don't like outsource anything. We don't outsource ATS. We don't outsource payroll. We don't outsource HR. We just try to do everything so that they can all like have a consistent and a magical user experience. And that is what like Rippling calls us like a compound startup. Our future plans, it's to continue to expand globally. We are currently in 7 or 8 countries, actually more. I lost track at some point, but to continue expanding globally to provide like Rippling services to more and more countries, and also to like continue launching a suite of products. We are currently working on a one-on-one product that I'm very excited about. I've been internally testing it. It's the best one-on-one product I've used personally, so I'm very excited about that. So like we try to build the tools that satisfy our own needs as like Rippling growing organization. So we dog food everything that we launch. We are a primary customer of everything we launch. So that's what in the future we'll just keep building whatever like our organization continuously.
Okay, thank you very much. So I've worked in companies and in agencies where we've got, excuse me, clever engineers like yourself who've got these visions and all the rest of it. But in my experience and what I learned from osmosis and having conversations with the engineering teams is it's really important not just to have a roadmap which is malleable, but also to have conversations with clients to help shape that roadmap and to help dictate what the technology can do and why it should do certain things. What do you guys do there? What was your approach to building that roadmap and ensuring that you're having regular touch points, regular conversations with existing users to ensure that the technology is as good as possible?
Yeah, I think it's really important to like not have your own vision of grandeur and like not it's build something that the users don't really want, right? That's like wasting everyone's time. So we use 2 techniques here. The first one is my favorite, which is that our CEO is the only HR admin in Rippling. As in, he's the one who approves every single payroll. He's the one who approves every single like, insurance enrollment. He's the one who approves most of the expenses. So he's the most powerful user of the software. He's the one who uses the software the most. So in some ways, if you are the customer, you can talk to yourself and like you can get the user feedback much faster. So we basically make it a point to use every single thing that we launch, and the people who launch it needs to use it as well. So I've run payroll for Rippling just to get the experience of like what it is like to run payroll for Rippling, and like gotten like ideas on like how to improve it and things around that nature. And we also like frequently set up like calls with customers, is to be like, hey, a free form call of like, hey, tell us like what do you think? What are the biggest things that you wish like Rippling did or could improve on? Like what are the things that like Rippling you wish you could fix? And the other thing that we do, which I think is like very important, is we have all the engineers do support. Every engineer goes through a rotation 1 week in every month or so, where they end up fielding requests from the support desk. So they understand like what the how frustrated customers get, or like what the pain points that customers are complaining about, so we can directly incorporate into the roadmap and like build those things, right? So um, basically, like, user feedback is extremely important. We talk to customers, we force engineers to work on support and support tickets, and also like get feedback around like from our own internal users. And they are very vocal about their feedback, so we incorporate all of them into our roadmap. So yeah.
Okay, very good. We are already coming towards the end of this particular conversation, Sriram. A couple more questions for you. Building a payroll product is pretty high stakes, of course, because many companies are relying on your solution to make sure that their employees are getting paid accurately and on time every time. That's rather important. Otherwise, you get very disgruntled employees and they might go elsewhere. What have been your biggest learnings while navigating how to build the somewhat complicated product? What are your top 2 or 3 major learnings over the last years?
I think the I think there are like few things that like comes up when you ask that question. One is to be able to explain why. I think many payroll software like did this could do this better. Where like bills pay for this month is like $8,993, and like, but why? Like I think it should be like $7,000. That is one of the most common queries that we get from customers, right? So building something which is fundamentally explainable, and like thinking about like how to build a system that's very explainable from the beginning is really important. And like we did that, and that has like given us a lot of dividends. And the second one is like you always have to have a plan B. There's always got like there's something which might always go wrong. It might be in your control, it might not be in your control. The bank might be down, the customer like made a mistake. There are thousands of things, so it's really important to build plan B. That is like another big learning for us. It's like always to think about like plan B, and be extremely proactive about like certain scenarios which are like uncommon. For example, if your payday ends up being on a holiday, send an email to the customer telling them like, hey, we are going to pay them one day earlier or one day later because there's a holiday, and be over communicative about like all the actions that you do, especially around like uncommon scenarios, so that like the payroll admin is equipped to answer these questions on like, hey, why did I get paid one day late, or why did I get paid one day early? And yeah, those are some of the lessons. Like, but like the biggest lesson is like payroll is really important, and it's really important to like make sure the HR admin is equipped with all the knowledge that they can possibly be. Most of the time, like the HR admin like doesn't want to like write into support to like ask like, hey, why is this happening? Why is this X? Why is that Y? And like being over communicative and like why the product is doing something has been like very helpful for us to build a software.
Okay, thank you. Very insightful. And just finally for today, Sriram, how can folks connect with you? So maybe that's LinkedIn, email address, or the rest of it. By the way, I sent you a LinkedIn connection earlier on, no pressure. And of course, how can they learn more about all of the things happening over at Rippling?
Yeah, so the best way to connect with me would be over LinkedIn. I'm happy to talk payroll and benefits with anyone. I've been working on payroll and benefits for 7 years. Always looking to learn more about the space and like what problems customers are facing. And the best way to learn about Rippling, I would say there are 2 things. You can always go to rippling.com. There's a bunch of things there. But additionally, Rippling conducts these seminars where like we invite a bunch of people to a hotel reception, and we basically like give them a demo of Rippling, how to use Rippling effectively, what are the advanced, and like it's one of our most favorite things to do, because we get to learn from customers on like how they use products in ways that we didn't even like think they could. So that's the other way I would say, like signing up for like these Rippling webinars is also extremely helpful to learn more about Rippling.
Excellent. Well, that just leads me to say for today, Sriram, thank you very much for being my guest on this episode of the HR Chat Show.
Thanks for having me, Bill. It was a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to the HR Chat Show. If you enjoyed this episode, why not subscribe and listen to some of the hundreds of episodes published by HR Gazette? And remember, for what's new in the world of work, subscribe to the show, follow us on social media, and visit hrgazette.com.